good evening, everyone. John and Risotto here, along with George Batista. Welcome to the Artist Blueprint. We're very excited. Annie Laven is back in the house. We are very excited to have her here today. She was at the Counterpart show when we were doing that. We had a great conversation, and she's done so much more since then that we're going to dive into today. We're super excited to have her on. So we want to go quickly because we got a few things to do. So George, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can give some love to our peeps, and then we'll bring Annie on.
Thank you, sir. So the Artist Blueprint Live is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family-owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Find out why I love them and a lot of other people around the world love them. Make sure you check out all their supplements at myvitaminresource.com. And of course, as our listeners and viewers, if you enter the promo code Counterparts at checkout, you will get free shipping on your order. And as always, do not forget their monthly specials. If you want a great stocking stuffer for this year and Christmas, check out their specials. This month's special is anywhere from 20 to 30% off all of their supplements. That's right. I said all of their supplements. It's a super sale. So again, it's anywhere from 20 to 30% off. So, great gifts to keep everybody's immune system in check. So one more time, it's Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com.
And we will get eventually our promo code, which is still Counterparts. We will eventually have to get them to make it Artist Blueprint.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Very true.
Cool.
Very true.
Yeah. So, George, why don't you tell us a little about Annie?
Well, we have our return guest. That's Annie Laven. We're so happy to have her back today. I'm not going to go into a long bio, but just really quickly about Annie. She is a screenwriter, author, and someone who specializes in helping you rediscover what makes you beautiful, powerful, and valuable using perspective and practical tools. She is a she's the co-creator of activateanartist.com, which is a great resource, which includes great content like blogs and an amazing online course, pretty much giving you everything you need for success. So let's welcome back Annie Laven.
Woo! Thank you, George. That was fabulous.
Yes, of course. Yes. Welcome back. We had the long bio, and I thought, well, we want to bring her on because we want. let's read some of her wonderful bio, and then let's bring her on so we can rock and roll. How are you?
I am loving life. I have been so excited all day about doing it.
Yes,
nice.
Us too. Actually, we said, and this was months ago, right, George? We were talking about. When we come back, we got to bring, when we come back with guests and stuff, we want to bring somebody like Annie Laven,
Yep.
And I was like, well, wait a minute, why not Annie Laven?
Yeah, exactly. Very true. Very true.
So you're our first guest on, I was going to say Activate.
Activate an Artist? Really, John?
Yeah. On an Artist Blueprint from Activate an Artist. Yeah. And so we're very excited to have you on here. So last time you were here, we talked a lot about your, what you were developing, and it was pretty much in the almost done phases. You had been working on it for a long time, and now it's official, it's done. And I want you to tell us a little bit about what that process was like for you to kind of get to the final. How do you know that it was like, oh, this is done? Because I know that you did some, you would have to test it and kind of have some split test with people and troubleshoot things and kind of have someone do the course and see and get that feedback. How did that process go for you?
Well, do I admit that I shot it 5 times? Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, why not?
It's crazy. One time, we literally lost the audio.
Oh, wow.
You go, oh, it looks great. And then I couldn't find the file. My son Quinn couldn't find the file. It was like,
The nightmare.
Yes.
Ugh.
It gives you an opportunity to do it better.
Yeah.
Each time, 5 times, um, that in the end, we really were excited about it. So the process was fairly long because I think it was about 2 years ago, I came up with the idea. I woke up one morning and I said, I really want to help. I just felt like the world needed help. And how could I help? And I've always been very fortunate that at some point in my life, I was able to put my purpose into words. And as an artist,
Mm.
it's so important because it's the first part of being an artist, right? Because if you know your purpose, not your goals, but your purpose in life, then you can channel that into your artistry.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, I know how to put my purpose into words. Maybe I can help other people do the same thing. And it probably took me about a month to kind of gather my thoughts, and then I wrote like a little book, and then I met with a friend of mine. Well, I met with a literary agent who loved the concept of what I was working on and has given me a lot of advice about how to do this and that. And I met with another friend who, John, you and I share as a friend, Catalina, and
Mhm.
she said, "This is an online course. I mean, this. People need to see you deliver this information." And
Oh,
so that was a whole nother process of taking
right.
the book, right, your written words, and how do you communicate that in lessons. So it was a long process, but I loved every part of it. I was telling someone the other day, I love to write, but my favorite thing is to rewrite. I
Mm.
really, truly, to me, that's where the artistry is. You get the opportunity to create the love, right? You take it from just, okay, here are the nuts and bolts. Now I get to go in and paint the details. And so each phase of this process, I was able to do that, to paint the details. And so by the time I got to actually shooting the course 5 times, um, I was able to really put in the detail that I felt like um, communicated, truly duplicated what I was trying to communicate. So I'm super excited about it.
That is so great. You mentioned purpose and then not goals,
Mhm.
purpose, and it's so amazing because and also you talked about, the fine details of that, because it's almost like, you kind of get an idea of what you want to do and what you want to kind of accomplish. And then you got to go in, and that's when you really got to start getting those details and getting that purpose down. What did you have, George? I'll let you ask a question before the
Right.
show is over. Um,
Nothing new, John.
what was there an aha moment for you when when you realized that was really the main foundation of your course and your writing?
Well, I knew before I started writing it, it was about purpose.
Okay.
The first time I came on your show, I talked about the 5 steps of being an artist, and the first step is making the commitment, and part of that is knowing your purpose. And so it was always there, and I kind of plucked it out of the 5 of what could I do to help, like as quickly as possible. And so I wrote a bunch of blogs about purpose,
Hmm.
which really helped me define for myself, put into words my understanding. And so it's really just been a process. So I knew before I started the book and the course that it was about purpose.
That's awesome. I love it.
Nice.
Okay, and
You-
I do want to say something, George.
Oh yeah.
Um, if the people watching today haven't watched your first episode of your show, they really should watch it because you guys do an amazing job of talking about your purpose for
Mhm.
this
Oh,
show. And it was so well defined. I was like, wow, look
oh,
at this.
thank you.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you. I got to go back and watch it because I don't remember what I said. what,
It
what
was,
did I?
it
I didn't know what I said, but it was good.
was
Was.
okay.
you know,
Now you can talk, George.
Yeah.
okay, thank you, thank you. Well, thinking about the online course piece because, I put a course on as well. It took me forever. It took me forever just to make the decision to
Yeah.
do it because you kind of go through like you kind of go through this thing of okay, well, why would people listen to me? Well, okay, but I have value, and then you're kind of going back and forth, right? But then
Mhm.
when you finish it, and I remember the day that I finished the course and kind of went back through it, and I was like, wow, it was the same type of deal. I redid these things like 5, 10 times in the certain lessons and stuff like that. But then you realize, holy cow, I created this whole thing where I was so scared to do it, and then I finally, here's the creation, here it is, and you feel it's such a great feeling. Well, what about folks who are scared to even start that process? What would you say to those folks?
Oh, wow. It's a trust the process.
Hmm.
Just trust the process because once you start and you trust the process, which means you just keep going,
Hmm.
you're going to get there. The
Right.
only way you're not going to get there is one, if you never start, and two, if you stop.
That's right.
Otherwise,
Absolutely.
and I go back to, I love to rewrite, because that's
Yes.
part of the process, right? You create, take a step back, you look at it, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay for it to be wrong, and it's okay for it to be not as good as you can do it, because you get to look at it, make that decision, and then continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's also such you run into so many artists, that they have great resources in their heads that they can offer up to help someone, right? Because we've all been through a process, and everyone has reached a level where they can help someone. But getting that and really documenting it and putting it down, and it's such a difficult thing to do, and for me, I think that admitting that I don't understand yet, but like you said, trust the process and continue to move forward. So you can, and you'll stumble and you'll trip and but if you just keep going, you will eventually get it because those scars and all that stuff, there's a lot of learning and experience in there. So I think what your course does, and I'm going to take it, by the way. I'm
Mhm.
excited about that. Um, yeah,
George, would you like
Yes.
to go?
Absolutely. Definitely.
cool, awesome. Yeah, then we could do a show talking about it after you and I
That's
do it.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's a great idea.
But I think what's great about it is that it also empowers artists.
Mhm.
It's exactly what it is: activate an artist, and it's exactly that. So they can go and create their course and create what they're, or not a course if they don't want to create a course. Not everyone wants to do that, but
Yeah.
create something that can help other artists, and together, I think we'll all get to the promised land.
Yes.
So I
And
love that.
I would like to um, reiterate that I operate off of the second definition of artist.
Right.
Person's work shows exceptional creative ability, which means not just musicians and painters and writers, but secretaries and teachers,
Yes.
administrators
Yes.
and attorneys. And when you rise to being exceptional, you enter the realm of artistry. And so purpose for everyone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And isn't it interesting because I don't think a lot of people really look at like an accountant
I have
as an
never,
artist.
I have never, since the first time you were on the show, I have never thought of artists the same. And honestly, it's because of you. Because
It's true.
when you came out with that,
Yeah.
I was blown away. And to this day, I look at artists and I still say it to myself. And John and I have even talked about it, saying, People create. Everybody creates, and like you said in the last show, you can create schedules. You create whatever it is at your job. You create. You are an artist, and I'm like, it
Yeah,
still
yeah,
boggles my mind, but it's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's really great. I love it. Do you when you run into people and you're kind of like talking about this, what's one of the what's a question you get the most that you're kind of like that you feel you really had to have a good answer for?
With regards to the
Just
course, just talking to
just
someone about the course.
yeah.
Well, what I find fascinating is people equate purpose to careers.
Mm.
That's the
Oh,
first.
Mhm.
That's their first. Like, oh yeah, I'd like to take it because I'm not sure what I want to do with my career, and
mhm,
which is a very important aspect, and it
sure.
does certainly address that. But what's exciting about it is it's not just your career that it addresses. So I don't want to give away too much.
Right. Well, that's true because yeah, I mean, there's just so much more to it. There's so many different dynamics that we have to live through to survive,
Yeah.
Right.
and
Imagine knowing your purpose in every area of your life.
right, right, and it's also I don't think I think it just kind of hit me now. Maybe it might go away. Let me see if I can find stay with it. But it's even like when you realize your purpose, you know, in one area, it could actually kind of shake up other areas because you may think that this purpose is the purpose and not part of your overall purpose, which I know your course addresses as well. So I'm very excited to do the course. So I'm
I'm
actually going to go
going to
now.
do the course.
I'll be right back. Yeah. So George, do you have a question? Because
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm
There was something that hit me that you said, Annie, and I'm gonna say it back to you, and
Okay.
I want you to address when you talk about truth for an artist, or it could be for anyone, but for an artist, and you said the error we make when looking at our lives is believing what we treat as true and see as true is actually true,
Yeah.
and you can equate that to pretty much anything. But talk about that as far as for an artist and their perceptions, right? Because John and I have talked about sometimes artists or someone who has a passion for an art. We always, a lot of times society doesn't look at art as a worthwhile endeavor as a career,
mhm,
Yeah.
right? Because they think, oh, there's going to be a starving artist and blah 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 and that type of thing.
lies.
So, and so talk about the truth, the artist's truth and what they believe and what they're hearing out and kind of how they can separate that.
Well, the phrase is when you treat as true, you see as true, you believe is true, right?
Yes.
And this indicates that someone else has decided
Yes.
already for
Oh,
you,
wow.
right? So as an artist, the 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 beauty as an accountant or um, a um, mechanic um, or a painter, artistry is your own voice, right? Who can
Hmm.
tell you
Right.
your voice?
Yep.
You.
Exactly.
That's it. And so the idea that you allow someone else to tell you, right? There's already an agreement. Someone else has already decided. They've looked at you, they've listened to you, they've decided this is who you are as an artist or just in life, right? And
Sure.
so
Sure.
we as artists have to recognize that no one can assign that. No one knows our voice better than us. It's
Right.
just it's that simple. And then the rest of it, which you treat as true, if you someone already gave you the answer, well, everything you see, you're going to see that way
Right.
because they've already told you the answer. But the beauty is that when you know what your voice is, when you know who you are, when you know your purpose, right?
Hmm.
Everything that you see is true for you,
Yes.
right?
That's right.
Because it's
That's right.
coming from you. It's not somebody else's.
Yeah, and
Amazing.
it's so difficult when you're young though, because you're so influenced by those around you,
Yeah.
and that's why education, real education, really, like your course, isn't it? It's education. Someone, a young person doing it, would understand, the purpose element of it, and that what you just said, because you get influenced by, like my grandma. Um, I was raised by my grandparents, and then my uncles all played guitar. But my uncles, they struggled, and they were, some of them, they were great people. My family was great, but they were they were heavy drinkers, and it was associated with the music. And so when I started playing, she was always worried. Oh,
Mhm.
he's gonna start. It's not a thing. It was just like, my grandfather, on the other hand, he bought me my first guitar, so he was very influential. But there's so many young people who really just don't have that opportunity because they're influenced by that voice, someone else's voice telling you
Yeah.
where they think you should be. You
And you
know,
know what, John? It's okay when you're 21 if you don't know what your voice is.
true,
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's okay. I think sometimes the standard has become a bit outrageous that,
yes,
by the time you're 22 years old, you should know.
right,
Right. True. True.
You
Right. Right.
just started stripping away all the
Yes.
things that you've been taught, right? And
Hmm.
and the things that we've taught are valuable. They're valuable when we can look at them and decide for ourselves, what do I want to do with it?
right,
Is it mine? Do I? Because someone could say something to you that is very valuable. They can see, right? You don't want to ignore
yeah,
what
yeah,
people say, but you want it to be true. You want it to resonate. You want to hold on to the things that um, resonate, and you want to let go. But you might be 35 years old when that happens, but that's okay.
yeah,
You'll be 55 when that happens.
yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you're right. It's like, I mean, I hate to say like society, because that's like the norm that people, but it is true that there's this weird kind of thing that you have to be at a certain place, and I think it comes through schooling, because I think, you know, first grade you need to know this, second grade you need to know that, so all the way up to high school. High school you should be doing algebra, and college you should know this.
Yeah.
So you've already been conditioned from 6 years to think to be at a certain place
Right. Right.
with everyone else. So when you leave college, it's why college students, a lot of them, when they leave college, they end up not doing what they studied and
Right.
go into other fields, because they realize, well, wait a minute, I didn't want to do this, and sometimes the faster they can find that, the better. But again, sometimes you can take somebody who's in their 50s and realize, man, I really hate this cubicle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was this my whole life, and I'm going to do it now, which is great.
Yeah.
But
I
society,
graduated
like,
from college and never had no idea
yeah,
that I was a writer. You know?
wow,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I left in the third grade, but I think that most, but I did leave school as I went back and got credits for an equivalency, what they call it, and then went to college a little bit. But there was only one class when I went to college that actually, and it was a writing class, and I wrote this piece, and my first piece that I ever wrote got into the newspaper for the college.
Nice.
And I was like so excited. I was like, wow. And it was like the first time I realized, oh, okay, creativity
Yeah.
is the thing that I like to do.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't there and now is there. And it took a lot of struggle with that, to get to that point.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? When we're talking about as kids, my journey with John, and even before John, right? I was actually more of an artist when I was young in the beginning. So let's say
Mhm.
6, 7, 8 years old, listening to Kiss and playing the drums to Kiss albums. John and I were just talking about that, right? But music was always a part of that, right? Then when I start getting into like let's say 11, 11, 12, 13, I lost that piece
Hmm.
because I started to get from my family, okay, now you got to start to kind of, think about things and get away from that music stuff. You really don't need that stuff. That's,
Get in line, boy.
right. But then John kind of came back into my life and actually was like, hey, we should do something because I'm playing guitar.
Uh-huh.
And you like the drums and stuff, and we had another cousin as well who was into guitar playing as well. And I was like, yeah, I should get back into this music thing because it's always been a part of me. It's always been calling me.
Mm,
And if it wasn't for that conversation between us
mm,
and actually us deciding at that point, hey, why don't we learn our instruments and start a band?
Yeah.
it's
I don't
amazing.
know if I would have done that, or maybe whatever I would have done later on, I would have always had that gnawing feeling that there's something missing,
Yeah.
that I could
Yeah.
have been doing those, these things. I could have been on stage. I could have recorded albums. I could have done these things, which we
Mm,
did later on.
yeah.
So it's that thing. And again, talking to all the artists out there, when you have that gnawing feeling that you just have to do something,
Mhm.
and no matter whatever else you're doing, even if you do it part time, even if you do it just as a hobby, just do it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have that voice, do it. So again, thank John, even though people didn't want me to hang out with him, but but I thank John for helping me
Sure.
on that end.
I was the troublemaker in the
Yes, he was.
family. I was always going against the grain on everything. I still do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but one of the joys that I have was going with George to buy his drum set, like for his
yeah.
birthday.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
And I remember just seeing photos of drums and how they were set up, and I kind of just like, I
We had
think this
no
goes
idea what
here.
we were doing. We're just
Oh,
Yeah,
my.
when we were kids, and I think this goes like this, and I think this is called a snare. This is what you hit, and
yeah.
and that's basically how we actually
He
started.
put his kit. He put the kit together better than I did, and I'm the drummer.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's joy.
So it was a lot of, but I want to talk a little bit about your course and what you're actually the what's next. Like, what are like, of course, how they can go to your website and get it there, which is on the screen, and I'll flash it down here as well. Um, but what's next for it? Like, what are you envisioning for people with your course?
I have big visions.
Good.
We have been going through the beta testing, and then we've had people sign up for the course beyond the beta testing. I still am doing some of the beta testing. I'm expanding. What's fascinating is that each person who completes the course, and it validates for me the reach that the course has. We've realized that the way that we can reach people, as opposed to just going online and as an individual signing up, we've recognized that through continuing education for companies, this is an amazing course because it undercuts every other continuing education course you will ever take. Because once you know your purpose, your interest in your job, in your career, elevates,
Mm.
right? So your production elevates. I mean, life is about fulfillment, right? We don't want to just do a job. We want to do a job well, right?
Right.
So we recognized that was an area that we were like, oh, this is a good fit. I have a very dear friend of mine, Corinne, who unfortunately lost her daughter after she went to Afghanistan. She was in service there, and about 10 years after, she just never really got the care she needed. She would often say to her mom, I don't have a purpose. And then about a year and a half ago, she finally passed away. Her body just gave in to the trauma of what she experienced in Afghanistan. So we are working together. She has a nonprofit. Corinne did the course as a grieving mom for a lost veteran. And it really locked in for her purpose to help especially female veterans, to get the help that they need from the trauma that they haven't been able to find. And that's very exciting to me that it's a way that we can help. So we're starting to reach out. We're kind of in the learning phase
Mm.
of how do we connect with either other nonprofits or individuals, and the idea is to be able to get it to veterans for free. So we can get funding and then allow it for them to have it free. Um, we're looking at Title I schools where juniors and seniors, Title I is at risk,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and where we would love to have juniors and seniors have access to the course, because what a great opportunity before you go out into the real world to have the advantage of really understanding your value to the world. Because that's in the end, that's what your purpose is. You recognize your value to yourself, to your community, to society, to the world. I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing to understand. And so we're reaching out. We're starting to do research to understand how we can implement that. I have a friend of mine who's a principal that I'm reaching out to talk to him about it and just get his feedback. How would you incorporate this? How would you get those students? How could you make time for them to get that course?
Yeah.
And of course, we're also trade schools. We've realized that it's a great
Yeah.
for trade schools, cosmetology, cooking. I mean, really, honestly, any human being would benefit from the course, but these are ways that we can get to groups, to get to people faster, and as they're training sometimes, so which is a benefit, because as you're training, you're using you're using this new, I like to call secret weapon, superpower, kind of a thing, um,
Yeah.
to take you through your training.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how about is it do you have to do much not changing but adjusting if it's a trade school, a different
There is at the end of the course, there is a section of application. So what you've learned, how you apply it, that's where it changes.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you are
Nice.
thinking very big. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. We really look, the people who have done the course and the feedback that we've gotten.
That's what I was going to ask about. Yeah, I was going to. Have you gotten? I mean, I'm sure you're getting amazing feedback, which I want to ask about. But have you gotten feedback where you were like surprised? Because you can get feedback says, okay, yes, I've learned this and this and this, and you can kind of see that. But then something that came back that you're like, whoa, that one surprised me. Have you ever gotten something like that?
No, it's mostly I cry.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
The honesty that when people are answering the questions, um, because the thing is that we're getting to purpose, right? I'm
Yeah.
helping you put your purpose into words. So if we went straight to that, it would be too hard.
Right.
So there are 5 lessons prior that create the path. So when you get there, you open the door and the answers are there, right?
Mm.
So the journey through those 5 lessons, um, that has blown me away. The answers that people are willing to really engage because they really want to know. They want the answer, right?
Yeah.
And so the beauty, life changing, right? Not, I mean, I've had probably 60% that were like life changing. The others
Wow.
changes in their life,
Sure.
like elevation or clarity, kind of a thing. So it's um, that. Not that it surprised me,
Hmm.
but I'm always happily surprised.
You're right.
I'm always genuinely happy. And I love the fact that I get to read all the answers. And I'm not reading to correct. I would never
Hmm.
correct anything anyone ever wrote. even though there are some questions that talk about definitions of words, and maybe they might not nail it, but I still wouldn't correct it, because what I have noticed is that 2 lessons later, they get it.
They get it.
Mm.
Yeah.
They get it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's a process. Trust the process.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I think correction is such a has such a, we're just so conditioned in being corrected, in being in school and stuff, and even just regular jobs sometimes have like, well, we're gonna have a yearly evaluation of your performance, and
Yes.
I think that you hadn't then sent out enough emails or
Best
whatever.
practices.
The best practices, so it's always something. It's always nice to hear, to be able to just be acknowledged for what you experience in that moment,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean about the emotional part, because sometimes you create something and you think, okay, this is the effect that I want it to have, whether it's a film or anything. And then when it comes back, and it really comes back, and you're like, oh, wow, that's like,
Yeah.
I did not.
Wow.
I mean, I knew it, but wow, that really hit the spot. I love that. I love that. I want to ask you about the process of rolling this out, like to individuals, when they after they reach out to you, after they do the course. Do you have more connections with the student after they complete the course? Do they belong to a group? Is there, is there a connection?
I have not quite gotten to the group thing, which I do want to create, because I think it's really valuable. I love the idea of the two of you doing the course and talking about it.
Yeah.
You're doing
Definitely.
it, right?
Definitely.
There's something amazing. But I do send follow up. One of the things that I've noticed is I will a few months later send their answers to them again, like all the questions with the answers, and it's like a rehabilitation of the course, and they don't even remember the answers. It's a fascinating thing. I've had people, we talk about it, and they'll go, oh, I got my answers back and I read them and I was like, oh, I don't even remember writing that, right? Because the change has occurred and they're over here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's growth.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where you would love to see, like, if you gave them those things a year or two later, to see what those answers would be.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Right?
I think I would
Yeah.
do- yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see what I wrote when I was in high school, because I think that would be life
Would you,
changing
John? Would you?
today.
Would you, John?
Well, the crayon was easier to hold back then. So
Wow.
George and I talk a lot about artists. I mean, the reason that this whole thing, that we're involved in this right now, is because we started talking about Star Trek, because we're both Star Trek geeks. We thought that was going to be a thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We did 15 episodes, and then every episode we just kept talking about life stuff and artists, and then we had some guests from Star Trek, and we talked about artists, and then the Counterparts show, it just became an extension of us being artists, and then we realized, this is just all our purpose is really to just help artists, and because we've been through our experience, whatever our experiences are, good and bad, it's always something that we can offer up to an audience to help them. You need a podcast.
Me?
Yes.
Oh.
This is actually an intervention.
Oh.
You didn't know that. That's really what it was leading to.
Well, Annie and I have spoken about a podcast, and I think it this is the kind of, these are the podcasts that George and I, this is our diet. Yeah.
I've seen her on Instagram doing some great posts that would be beautiful podcasts. And Annie, let me tell you, I mean, John, I don't know if John's told you about me. I would be the last person that you would ever see doing something like this, especially growing up with him. He would tell you I was the last person. So introverted. It was ridiculous. And now I do too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's crazy.
But I do know also that it's a process, and
Yes.
it's something that you know has to be put together. But the reason I even say that is only because these kinds of conversations with your graduates in
Yes.
this type of forum, I think
Yeah.
would be really beneficial, not just to your graduates, but to new audiences and new, I think that would be really great. Do you?
I
Yeah.
would, go ahead. Sorry. I mean,
No, 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 go ahead.
no, you were going
You
to ask me a question.
No, what is the when it comes to a podcasting, is how would you attach that to to this process that you worked on, because it's such in I can't wait to the course because I'll have more actual insight in it.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen so far, and from some of the success stories that I've read on your website, I can see that it's life changing, and the podcast would be with talking about these life changes, right?
Yeah. Okay. Now I know what my podcast is. No,
We
thank
did
you.
it. We
Yeah.
did it, George.
Yay! What's funny is that I was talking to a friend of mine, Ian, and he's getting ready to. He went to cosmetology school, and I asked him to do the course from the perspective of a cosmetologist. And he said, "Well, my sister is a cosmetologist. Maybe I'll have her do the course." And then he said, "Well, but then you can interview both of us because that would be really cool." I was talking about it. So
Mm,
it's that same concept, the
Yeah.
human interest of
yes.
the change. And, we all want people to achieve their dreams and to watch the process of what someone goes through. Um, Maybe they're not achieving their dreams in this particular process, but they're opening the door, right?
Hmm.
They're getting the tools. It's similar to what you guys are doing, right? Which is the blueprint.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
creating a blueprint. You're going, you do this, and you do this, and you do this. My particular thing right now is focusing on you find your purpose.
Yeah.
You get it into words, you apply it to your life, and you see the change.
Yeah. And also, podcast for me, whenever I watch a podcast, is to there's an entertainment factor of it, obviously, and but there's always something that I want to extract that I can apply. You know, George and I, we send each other like clips of things all the time, and whether it's a silly joke or whatever, but it's usually something that has to do with something that we're
Yeah.
passionate about. So, like, one of the popular podcasts that we talk about is, I mean, Joe Rogan is one that we talk about. But for Joe Rogan, it's always about the guest,
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And that's something that you know sometimes I'll watch it, and the guest I'm not connecting with the guest,
right.
but this subject that we're all talking about here can connect with anybody.
Yes.
You don't have to really be, you just if you're alive and you have oxygen in your lungs,
Yeah.
you can apply this to your life.
As a parent, right?
Mm,
Mm.
We're living our lives, and then we become parents,
yep.
and then everything changes. And then one day you wake up and you go, "Wait, where am I?"
Right.
Right? Like where did my life go? Where feeling a little lost, kind of
Mm.
thing. So it's a wonderful moment in time to be able to go, okay. Because the thing is that you're not going to compartmentalize. Um, I am a mom, which is separate than um, a sister or um, a baker or
Hmm.
whatever it is you do. The beauty of purpose is it gives continuity,
Right.
right? It's fulfillment of life. So if you look at everything I've ever written, there is a continuity because it all
Hmm.
comes from
Yes.
this voice, right? This purpose. And when people are looking for fulfillment, I've recognized that it's simply that we've been moved off of center, right? So here we are, and then we get moved off, and then every decision we make is from over here. Well, start to feeling a little lost. And then that decision takes you a little further, and you get further and further away. You become more and more at a loss. And so this course simply just eases you back and puts you right back in the middle, and you go, oh, so as a mom, I can still be me.
Right.
As a baker, I can still be me, and I can be both of these things and still be me. And nobody suffers. Everybody wins, actually.
Well, that was just going to
Yeah.
mention about how everybody wins, because that's really when you're surrounded by, family and friends, and you're living your purpose. They're going to be happy to be around you, and they want to be around you.
Sure.
And that also pulls in those that are over here.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like, I kind of like what I see there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of go there and see if this can help me get there. And I think that's why podcasting and just social media and these things. I think that's the positive.
Mm-hmm.
I only look at the positive social media and all this stuff. I think that's the part of it that really affects people. It's the fact that it brings them somewhere where they kind of want to be,
Yeah.
and shows them another way of feeling that
Yes.
they might have forgotten.
Yes.
And I think that all this tied in together is a beautiful thing. I love it. Love
Other
it.
things.
It's
Yes.
it's one of the things that I've noticed, even in motivation and health, right? Because you've got all these motivational people out there screaming and yelling, "Hey, you could be successful, you can do this." You get that whole thing. People get excited about that, and then 2 weeks later, they're back into default mode, right?
Yeah.
And they forget about it. Where I told John this the other day, actually, in one of the shows that we did. I like the concept of somebody starting foundationally in a very basic place, and then taking me step by step through a process.
Yeah.
And something that John and I are working on, I know you're working on in your courses and everything that you teach as well. Step by step, this is what you can do, because it eliminates all that noise out there, and you really and just like you said, you can it's that here, step 1, step 2, step 3. I personally like that.
Yeah.
And I found that later on in life that's really what I need. Listening to all these people shout, that's all great and good and everything, but again, it's not addressing my fundamental issue. And I think, a course like yours can definitely do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think I've ever met anyone that said, I became successful by someone yelling at me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
To be successful. And that's how I made it. I've never seen that. And you're right. I mean, and some of them have some good content, but I don't think that they have what your course has, that it's, they'll say, you're saying, here's your purpose, but your purpose is this, and you're going to do this,
Right.
and you got to get out there and do this, and this is your purpose, and they're not giving you the actual work,
Right.
the introspective views that you have to look at and analyze, and kind of like be like, okay, this is where I am, and this is the movement, and here I am moving forward towards that. So then you can really see it and not feel like you're not, because getting yelled at, and I've been at those, by the way, where you go there, you pay a ticket, and I've been to the webinars and so many things throughout my life, and sometimes you go there and somebody's literally yelling at you about how they did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, just tell me why you gotta yell.
It's kind of like somebody saying, "Oh, just let it go."
Yeah.
Really? It's you have to give them the path. You have to.
Right,
You can't
correct.
just tell them to let it go. You have to, like, okay, this is how you let it go.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. We talk about sometimes expressions that we also, that kind of tie into stuff like this, where people are like, it is what it is.
Okay.
That's one that really just kills me. Like, it is what it is.
Is it?
At the end of the day, it is what it is, or whatever. That I think that those expressions come in because they don't have an answer.
They don't know what to say. Right.
So it's much easier to say it is what it is, and then everybody just is so conditioned to hear that they're just like, okay, it is what it is. I'm gonna go back to work,
Yeah.
in that voice.
Yeah.
So that's the. So we're at wait 50 minutes. We're at 50 minutes already.
What? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Wow.
That's so awesome.
Wow.
You guys.
So okay, I want to
Amazing
let's
information.
let's talk to our audience about your course, and let's get people on there. Give us something that I know we talked a lot about it, but I want you to talk a little bit more about the journey that they would go through, and some of the experiences that you've read from the success stories.
Um, well,
So I want people to get excited. Let's yell.
shall I?
Let's
You don't want to, John. Become mama. So I can't. My mom never yelled. My mom was a saint. Okay. I wonder how many times I said tonight. I'm gonna have to go back and look. Okay. This course, the journey for someone on this course starts with space, right? We have to give ourselves the space to look, right? You can't see unless there's some space. If everything is right here, you can't see anything. So
Wow.
so there's we start there, right? And then there's an agreement. It's about, do you want the answers, right? There's this whole perspective. Like we have to take a perspective that will allow you to get to the place that will give you the answers. And then there's orientation. We give you information. I say we, I give you information that makes you go, oh. And sometimes it's simply in differentiating the definition of words,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
You get more clarity on specific words, right? And then we do a little some exercises to make sure that it's clear. And then we get a deeper understanding of the impact of purpose. So all the while, you're uh, the word that keeps coming to mind is it's your determinism.
mm.
You are in control of this process, right? Even though I'm guiding you, it's all yours. Every answer is yours, and there is no wrong answer because it's you. And I am there always reading everything. And if someone says, I'm not sure I got this, then I will respond. So
Mm.
I am there. I am engaged. You're not out there on your own, and it's not going into the universe without someone else acknowledging it, right? So there's
Awesome.
someone there with you. And then you get to the point we address forgiveness, because that's a
Yeah.
big thing
Yep.
that stands in the way of seeing, is either not forgiving ourselves or not forgiving others. There's a section that opens up into that because that's where the process takes us. And then, you get to the 3 steps of purpose. And that one, friend of mine, Cecile, she was actually the first person. Um, we've become friends now. We had actually just met when she did the course. And her going through it the first time, the first of the 3 steps, she struggled a little.
Mm.
Like it wasn't as easy as I wanted it to be for people. So I had to go back and restructure.
Mm.
I didn't want people to have to struggle. It's not that when you get there, you're not going to go, huh, hmm, hmm, hmm.
Right.
Right.
You probably will, but that's okay because you're probably looking for the first time in your life in this area.
Yeah.
I have found that just as many people have been able to go, oh, as those who have had to, it a bit, 2 or 3 days, and I give them lots of different ways that they can get there. It's not one way, it's a lot of different ways to get there. And then you go through, you get all three, you put them together, and you go, wow, you realize truly how magnificently beautiful and powerful and valuable each individual is. You. And you can see that now in others. That's the beauty, right? Because now you go, oh, now I know everybody else has that, right? And you want everybody else to now know that for themselves. And then you apply it, right? You get an opportunity to take this purpose that you now put into words, and you get to put it in, like, in the relationship. I give you an opportunity to, how would you apply it in your relationship at home or at work? But it depends. If it's for veterans, it's a little bit different, right? Because their experience traditionally is there.
Right.
And we give them an opportunity to look at that experience from a different perspective, to free them from some of that trauma, right? Because I've moved you over here, and you can look at it, and part of that is forgiveness, when you can look at something a different way.
Wow.
And then, and that's it. You're all of a sudden, and I have found that what happens is people who do the course, they apply it. And then I would say maybe a week later, it kind of starts to expand on them. Like they start to see it in their everyday lives. I will give you an example. Do we have time?
Yeah.
So a lovely woman did the course, and she had a certain kind of relationship with her mom that wasn't necessarily a great relationship. It could have been better. And she was doing the course, and she finished the course and was very excited about it. And her mom walked in and did that thing that drove her nuts. And she said, I started to respond the way I always do. And she said, and I stopped. And I thought, okay. And she said, I reread my purpose. And I went, okay. And I completely changed the way. First of all, I recognized that I had not been communicating to her, my mom, from me. There was this other thing there, this, reaction. So she was able to talk to her mom, and she said they now talk all the time. She said it totally changed the relationship with her mom. This has been their whole lives.
That's incredible.
Yeah, And I think in your last podcast that you guys were talking about when you're running into things?
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is it?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yep.
It's ours. And this allows you to take responsibility. And the beauty is that once you know your purpose, it's a measuring stick. When you start to feel a little out of sorts, you can look and go, oh, back over here. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I feel good. This is me. I'm not reacting, because that was just reacting. That wasn't me, right?
Right. And then that becomes your normal self.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't think about it anymore because you're now you.
Exactly.
Wow. And I love the space part because I think that that's something that for me was always a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
In my studies and stuff. I realized I just never really gave myself an opportunity to have the space
Mm-hmm.
to confront something and the agreement that you mentioned, to say, I'm going to actually take my life seriously.
Yes.
Because I'm here, I'm not waiting to arrive.
Yes.
And life is start where we're going.
Yes.
So when I realized that, that was a big moment for me, and I'm really looking forward to doing your course.
Yep, me too.
Annie Laven, oh my, I mean, an hour is definitely not enough. This is why a podcast is needed. And then we can be guests on your podcast.
You would
we do.
amazing guests. Okay. I can promise you it's on my list. I want to do it. I just have to launch all these other things.
Yeah,
And
Sure.
anybody who's watching who wants to reach out to me because you want to help me do that, I would
yeah,
be happy to hear from you. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you got two
Awesome.
guys here who will help you. George and I don't tell everyone that that they
That's
should have
true.
a podcast.
That's very true. I
Here.
don't think we've ever said
I
that to
don't think we've
anybody.
ever done that. Actually, you're
No,
right. I think this is
no.
the first time. But yeah, we want to thank you for taking the time to hang out with us this evening and to give us this wonderful information. Again, you can go to activateanartist.com, start that course. George and I are going to start it. We're going to actually come back and we're going to talk about it as well. We're very excited to have you here. So thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate you
Thank you.
very, very much.
Thank you so much. I love you guys.
Thank you. Love you
Love
too.
you.
Annie Laven.
Yeah.
Yay. Oh
She's
my
so
God.
inspirational. I mean, I love when she comes on because she's just like,
It's just,
what do you say?
it's just positive energy. And also
But
there's tangible, useful information that really, it's just like you leave knowing that the space thing for me, right? Just did it when she was
Yes.
at space and then an agreement and just the way she's laid out that course to me
Yes.
just really makes because you can be that all the people that are yelling like find your purpose, damn you piece of and they're just yelling at you and you're yelling at you and they don't have any real tangible tools and
Right.
this is something that kind of guides you towards that.
And another thing that people don't think about, but I think about when she comes on specifically is her delivery. Is how
Yeah.
she delivers the information.
Yeah.
Also, is even just the way she speaks and how she talks about it
Yeah.
with the passion, and how it's because you
Communicate.
obviously you have two different people can deliver the same line and have two different experiences, right?
Yeah, it's just good communication
Absolutely.
skills and a care, a sincere
Yes,
care for
it comes across.
what you're saying,
Absolutely.
so it
Yeah.
comes across. Love it. All right. Well, thank you, Annie, for being on. Definitely, she'll be back, and we'll be doing her course. And want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. If you have any questions, you can always email us. I don't know where they can email us just at this point, George, but they can always email.
They can email you or either you or I, or you
Yeah,
can give your
and
email address or whatever.
to our website as well, which is the artistblueprint.live. They could also send us messages through there.
And by the way, they can leave voicemails on there too.
And you can leave voicemails, and you can actually not only write curse words, but you can actually record them and send them to us.
Again?
Again. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate y'all very much. We'll see you all again next week, same time, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For George Batista, I am John Henry Soto. Thank you very much. See you next week. And as always, peace.